Good morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for this Monday, January 25th. First thing that we normally look at is precipitation over the past 7 days. And on the left, you can see across California in typical El Nino fashion, just abundant precipitation, especially across the higher terrain. We can also see that it dries out quite a bit as we go across Nevada. Moderate amounts in the green here across most of the Wasatch region up into Idaho. In terms of how this lines up in normality, you can see here in California, these purple shades, this is basically 200 to 300% of normal for that 7-day period. Whereas across a good portion of the Great Basin, with the exception of the Wasatch and parts of Idaho, precipitation has been below normal. Look at the upper level maps. Infrared imagery with upper maps superimposed shows that a trough of low pressure has moved across the Great Basin, pushing out into Colorado and the plains. We have a ridge of high pressure behind it, a pretty strong high, which is going to be our dominant weather feature for much of the upcoming week. Storminess well off to the edge of the map in the Pacific will be the dominant weather feature as we go into the upcoming weekend and much of next week. Here's a look at our dispersion or ventilation index, which combines mixing heights and transport winds. And you can see the best dispersion with the whites and yellows and some reds is basically across our eastern areas. The further west you go across Nevada, you start seeing some of these purples pop up as you get closer to that high pressure ridge and overall poor dispersion. If we break those components down to mixing heights and transport winds, you can see that very weak transport winds across much of Nevada. Stronger winds still hanging in this afternoon across much of Utah, especially the Wasatch. And then on the right-hand side, vertical mixing, very poor across Nevada, moderately good still across a fairly good chunk of Utah, and kind of a mixed bag up here in Idaho. Now, if we look at the upper level maps for tomorrow from our computer model projections on the left, you can see that ridge of high pressure now moves right in. Its axis centered across much of Nevada. You can see drier air punching in with these tannish colors. And on the right-hand side, you see that overall dispersion gets significantly worse. Expanded area of purple, or our lowest category of ventilation across Nevada, starts decreasing in terms of ventilation here in Utah. Not quite as good as it would be this afternoon. And if we break those down into transport winds and mixing heights, you see, again, very weak transport flow horizontally across Nevada, except southern areas, and also decreasing in Utah, except across the Wasatch. Hit and miss across parts of Idaho, higher terrain, still getting some light to locally moderate transport flow. The valleys will stay under inversions. And speaking of inversions, look at these mixing heights, very low across Nevada and starting to edge into parts of Utah as well, and decreasing here across southern Idaho. Now looking at Wednesday afternoon, the high pressure ridge axis builds northward, starts to glide a little bit further to the east. A little bit of moisture across the northern portion of the Great Basin. If we look at overall dispersion, you see that area of purple still dominates most of Nevada, starts getting expanded across Utah and parts of Idaho, so dispersion continues to decrease as we go through the midweek period. And locally here for Utah, from the National Weather Service, the clearing index, the greener to yellow and orange colors signify better overall dispersion or ventilation. You can see that the best day is Monday, and our ventilation or clearing starts to really take a nosedive as we go Tuesday and especially Wednesday. Very poor overall dispersion, maybe localized, not so bad here in the Uintas, but by and large we see a downward trend towards the midweek period. And as we're under high pressure, precipitation over the next 3 days, not expecting much at all, maybe some residual light flurries or snow showers today across parts of the Wasatch and into parts of western Wyoming. Otherwise, pretty much high and dry for the next 3 days. Now, as we go into the latter part of the week into Thursday afternoon, things start to change. That high pressure ridge starts flattening out a bit in response to a strengthening Pacific jet stream. You can see some moisture associated with it, poised to move onshore across California and also parts of the far northern and western areas of the Great Basin. And in terms of ventilation, still poor, but we should start seeing an improving trend as we go through the next couple of days beyond that. If we go to Friday, you can see that, again, transport flow is good. We get increasing clouds The transport winds will be picking up aloft, probably 20 to 30 miles per hour. Still some overall dispersion issues just because the cloud cover will prevent daytime heating from mixing things out, but the wind should start improving things a little bit. And then as we go into Saturday afternoon, that's where you really start to see things improve as a trough of low pressure starts carving out just off the California-Oregon coast. On the right-hand side, you can see that Nevada goes from nearly all purple to a lot more reds and yellows, even some whites pushing on through here, which on the key on the right-hand side indicates better and better overall ventilation. Still a mixed bag here in Utah, but starting to improve. Improving up in Idaho as well. We'll probably start seeing significant precipitation in this pattern. And as we go into Sunday, trough of low pressure starts deepening across the Great Basin. Lots of clouds, probably moderate to heavy amounts of precipitation, probably mostly in the form of snow with significant accumulations. And on the right-hand side, you can see that dispersion, as you would typically expect with a storm system, improves significantly from west to east. Looking at precipitation totals from Thursday through Saturday, starts increasing from California into parts of northern Nevada and northern Utah, as well as much of Idaho. And that sets the stage for a pretty stormy period next week, February 1st to 7th. On the right-hand side, you can see that we expect above normal precipitation chances for the entire Great Basin region. On the left-hand side, you see temperatures near or below normal, especially across Utah and far northern Arizona. So that's something we'll be looking at over the next couple of days. And this concludes our smoke briefing. Have a great day. Our next briefing will be this coming Wednesday morning.